Good. All right. Well, might as well get started. Why not? Well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate the decision to join some shared presence this morning. This session we will be learning a little bit more about this dork dancing for mental health concept. It's been a very difficult couple of years with COVID-19 and the lockdown, and there's a mental health crisis going on of sorts. So this discussion will be an exploration of both the value of dance and then the importance of mental health and how to talk about it and things like that. So we'll get started. Want to first acknowledge the sponsors for Denver Startup Week. So thank you for joining us at the 11th annual Denver Startup Week. Thank you to our title sponsors, Amazon, Capital One Cafe, Dell for Startups, and the Downtown Denver Partnership. This session is part of the Spotlight track, which is sponsored by Southwest and Chase Bank. Thank you to our sponsors. And this is one of 8 programming tracks aimed at supporting the entire entrepreneurial team. By attending this session, you're agreeing to follow our code of conduct as well as to being photographed or recorded on video. Be sure to share your experience at this session online using hashtag DenStartupWeek. And then if you feel so inspired, hashtag DorkDancing as well. So yes, thank you to our sponsors. Here we have a list of our major sponsors, so thank you to them. And then this is the Spotlight track over there for Southwest and Chase, who are supporting this and making all of this possible. So. And then here are some other sponsors that are supporting Denver Startup Week. I guess if you've attended other sessions this week, you are familiar with who the sponsors are, but we'd like to thank them for their support. So to get started with this session, we'll start by showing a documentary that chronicles my experience of starting dork dancing and what that journey has looked like and sort of the purpose and story behind it, which will just provide more context behind what we're doing and what the session is all about and sort of the purpose of dork dancing. All right. Thoughts of paranoia that I couldn't move, and I was physically paralyzed by the sensation of fear. And I had never felt something like that before, to not be able to move despite wanting to run away as fast as I could. I definitely wasn't in a good headspace. I could have done something terrible. I remember when I first got behind the wheel in the car, and that felt like the best opportunity for me to go. And luckily I didn't go for it. Yeah, I did think about that for a while. Yeah. So I didn't want to die, and I'm here, so that's cool. Sucks to be confused. I guess technically I was suicidal, but just because I thought I needed to, for for some reason. I knew I needed to feel better, and it was very difficult, but bit by bit, I forced myself to get out of bed and do something, and I found a lot of healing and power in moving. And for me, as a kid, I played a lot of basketball, and so that was the easiest thing for me to return to, was to go back to the courts, pick up a ball, and start playing. And that was my first step. From there, one thing led to another, and some years later, I discovered dance. How did you start dancing? How did it begin? So it was about 5 years ago. I was with a roommate who I felt really comfortable around, and turned on the music and just started like moving my body, just sort of acting goofy and silly. And that was the first time that I had danced in about a decade, giving myself permission to just like move my body. And that was something fun and funny, and my roommate was laughing at me, and that was encouraging. After that experience, I was like, oh yeah, dancing is something fun. My roommate joined me, and then we recorded ourselves and shared like dorks in our room, and that's when I have a tool for themselves to feel better. I observed that the world's kind of gone
don't think Our Lady with Disability can dance in a very normal way. Yeah, because when we think about dancing, we think that, well, people should stand up and then they dance by their hand and their legs. That's the normal way. So I challenged Ethan. I said that, well, Our Lady with Disability, they never dance. But I think they want to dance with you. So I said, maybe one day you should come to our office. You meet with our Lady with Disability in the upcycle project. Then you try to dance with them first. So it was so fun that day. He turned on the music and then Our Lady, they danced with him. And he looked very happy with the dancing.
Lần đầu tiên thì lần đầu tiên là bạn ấy đến Đài Loan rồi cái tham gia một cái máy điện thoại thôi. Là đi đón bạn đó cùng nhau hát cả nhóm rồi múa cười vui lắm, có cái ảnh để lại. Rồi sau đó là về rồi vô nó và cái bạn đó rồi cái bạn đó cho một ngày.
We have so many different disabilities. Someone can move the leg, some cannot even move the hand. One just can be able to move this part. But they dance in the way they can dance.
This is strange. You're gonna be from there. The way that I face myself in the camera. Hello everyone, my name is Ben. I'm from Hungary and I adore dancing for mental health. One day my friend just told me that, hey, it would be so nice to join indoor dancing, why not? And we went there and I had an amazing time. I had so much fun. At first it was of course full of stress, full of thinking about other people's judgments, full of awkwardness. But everything starts like this, right? So like this is the first step. You have to get through of this stage, then you can start to enjoy it. And that's exactly what happened there. And after that, I just wanted to go back and do it again and again and again and again. And 1 month later, I actually become one of the door dancing hosts. I just like to create an environment where people feel great. And I'm really happy that I made this decision because hosting door dancing is a new level of enjoyment. And also I can have bigger impact on people in this community as well.
Now recently, with the new variant and everything, we've sort of been in intense lockdown for more or less 3 months, and it's been very difficult. So it's been a roller coaster ride with the lockdowns here in Vietnam. And you know, the human body and people are meant to move and they're meant to interact and be with each other. And when we can't do that, when those freedoms are taken away, that's a huge mental health challenge. We aren't wired to just be alone in our rooms all the time. For us, indoor dancing increases the relevance of what we're doing and increases the urgency to continue providing indoor dancing even during times of lockdown.
I must say that I've been really when I went primary school to high school. Most of the students in my class, they really not respect my personality, my view of life. They only judge about the way I walk, the skin I have, and my style and my hobby. It's really easy to lead you to suicide and depression. Sometimes it made me reflect, did I do something wrong to them, or did I have to fit myself? I can be myself at top dancing. There is no judgment. You can get being supported by many people. You can inspire and be inspired by people too. Somehow I think that I belong to this community, top dancing.
I used to drink a lot. My weekends, I'm not saying always, but often, were just a big blackout. and I'm not proud of it, but that's the truth. Like, you know, the sad thing that it's kind of the general thing. It happens everywhere. And I moved to Vietnam, and it's just different here. It's not really about drinking. We have other ways to find entertainment. You just don't require to get drunk in this community because you can feel like these people won't judge you. They are nice people like you. But also, like, I just realized that alcohol is not needed anymore. I don't say I never drink. Sometimes it's good to drink a beer or something, but I don't feel that I have to get drunk to achieve that level of freedom. I don't need it. I can go to the beach and dance alone, and I feel free.
There's been a number of other events and initiatives that have grown out of the initial dork dancing idea. So now we have vegan dork dinners, dork sports, resilient dorks, dork games, dork improv is coming out, dork cycling, dork dating, dork art. So these ideas are coming from the community, and all of these things exist for mental health. I'm also very curious about how can we spread dork dancing to other cities. I'm working to identify and find people who might have an interest in dork dancing elsewhere. The process and journey of dork dancing is super fulfilling and rewarding because I get to see this process of growth in other people so intimately. The journey and challenge of dance is also like challenging anxiety, esteem, confidence, these types of things. Part of what dork dancing teaches is really anyone can dance, or really anyone can at least dork dance.
No one say like that with us. But no one come and say, well, you can dance, let dance with us. I cannot believe it can happen like that. It is so touching.
It's a really powerful thing to see. Super beautiful moments of just seeing people smiling and laughing and jumping, and seeing kids and parents, families, young, old, Vietnamese, foreign, all come together. There's been a really nice community that has grown from this dance campaign. If it wasn't for this mental health purpose, dork dancing would lose its relevance. And I think a lot of people in the community are showing up and dancing for this exact cause. A lot of people struggle with things like loneliness, depression, anxiety, and for those people to know that they're not alone in that challenge. Yeah, the vision and dream is to get the world dork dancing, and I'm excited about the journey of what that might look like. Oh, yeah, half beard, yeah. So I have a half beard for the same reason that I'm dork dancing. It really helps raise awareness for mental health. It's a great conversation starter. It's also a reminder for me to not take myself too seriously. And then also, there's a funny stigma about having half a beard. A lot of people ask questions or look at you funny and things like that. My relationship to half beard parallels my relationship to mental health. There's a lot of stigma
talking about that.
I think for those who are shy to dance, you can try dirk dancing no matter where you are. It doesn't need to be with other people. You can start by yourself.
Alrighty. Is it still on? Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for giving that a watch. Hopefully, that was orienting a bit of what dork dancing is and a little more context of sort of the story behind it and my journey of starting it and sort of the purpose of dork dancing and things like that. So, the next thing on the agenda is an invitation for us to actually experience the dork dancing concept. So if you are open to giving it a try, what I'll do is connect my phone to the speaker, turn on some music, we'll dork dance for a little bit. I lead a little warm up to help calm the anxieties and things. And we'll just sort of enjoy dancing for as long as we want. And then when we feel ready to continue, we can sort of proceed with the session. So, awesome. Yeah, so we could all like come up here, and maybe if we need additional space, we can move the chairs. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. So I'll lead a little warm up to help us get familiar with it.
finally found you.
Yes.
After 50 years.
That's funny. So,
judgment.
judgment, yes. Let's just connect this. Hopefully this works. Appreciate the patience. That should work. All right. Whoops. All right. So, all right. Well, welcome everyone to Dork Dancing. I appreciate your decision to be here in this session and sharing sort of, kind of vulnerable space and just sort of like deciding to be here. Want to acknowledge it's not a normal or typical thing to be dancing with strangers. And so if you feel any type of anxiety or awkwardness or discomfort, know that's a normal feeling. Oh, yes. No, that's a normal feeling, and you're actually already doing exactly what a dork feels like inside. So if you feel that way, just encourage us all to sort of lean into that energy. And your decision to participate is helping forward a cause of mental health, raising awareness, and then also sharing not only a dance, but a journey of mental health advocacy. So what we're going to do is you're going to introduce yourself by saying your name and then doing a dorky move. And then after we do a dorky move, if everyone else could repeat that dorky move to sort of like learn how do we dork dance. I have a sense you all already have an intuition of how to do it, but it's a little different to do it with strangers. So to get started, first, any questions about sort of how this is going to go? No? Okay. So my name is Ethan. I'm going to turn this up a bit more. And my dorky move is just like that, side to side. Just like that. Yep. Nice. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to pass the microphone around over here.
My name is Ellen, and this is my dorky move.
My name is Patty, and my dark move is the robot.
Call me Eric. Let's do this.
Like a yoga.
That one's for younger people. I'm Jason, and my dorky move is the shopping cart. Gotta shop.
My name is Bobby, and my dorky move is a disco move.
All right, so good. So let's remind ourselves what the moves were. So this was the first one. It was just like this, side to side. Nice. We had the second move was like this. And what was the third move? What was yours? Like this, robot. Nice. And then we had the push down. All right, then we had the shopping cart, right? And then the last one was the disco. All right, amazing. Okay, well, congratulations. You are all official dork dancers now. You know how to dork dance. There's no right or wrong way. And part of the journey and fun is getting out of our head into our body. And so now we'll listen to 1, 2, 3 songs, however many we want to. We take song requests, so if there's a certain song that you want to listen to, we can put that on. But we'll just enjoy the process of just moving. However, if you don't know what to do at any time, you can pick one of those moves and just do that the whole time, but then the invitation is open to try to discover and embrace your inner dork. So we'll enjoy a couple songs, just dance it out for a bit, and if you have a song that you'd like me to play, let me know. Okay? Awesome. Oh yeah, it's certainly a cardio challenge of sorts. Lots of dancing burns a lot of calories. But awesome. Thank you so much for participating in that activity, making a choice to sort of lean into maybe doing something that was a bit uncomfortable, to try something new, and hopefully get a small sample of what dork dancing feels like and is all about. So the next part is just pausing for a moment, trying to take some space to give opportunity to maybe debrief a little bit about what you watched in the documentary or what you experienced, trying to understand or process, if there's any questions about anything that you saw in the documentary or anything that you'd like to share about your experience dancing, or just a time and space to maybe also reflect on, mental health, dance, just opening up the floor a little bit. So I know that's not like quite a specific prompt, but yeah, just if there is any questions, curiosities, comments about the actual dork dancing experience or anything that you watched in the documentary, now would be the time and space to chat a bit about that.
So my question would be, in the documentary, you explain your journey, and you wanted to have movement and all of that. How do you think we can integrate that in companies or in the founder community, in the startup community, in terms of like to wind down, right? I think sometimes we just work and have this alcoholic culture sometimes. How can we kind of, right? It was fun to kind of pause and dance and relax and, kind of wind down. So how can we incorporate that in our daily lives, I guess?
For sure. Thank you for that question. So for me, it's really easy to overthink things. And so the part of the power of dork dancing is its simplicity. So I think, at the bare minimum is sort of having someone with who maybe feels inspired, has like the dork dancing spirit within them, that wants to sort of introduce it to their space, whether it's company that you work at, friends or family, turning on the music and explaining what the dork dancing thing is, and sort of leaning into that and dancing with others. So it's something that you can personally incorporate in your own life and then share with other people. But then, I personally and others would, love to sort of work with other organizations to sort of try to introduce the concept, plant the seed of what we're trying to do and why in terms of, the mental health advocacy and things like that. But yeah, it's a very simple idea that you can do really anytime. And so, yeah, great brain break to shake stuff up, and also a great team bonding activity if, to introduce it to people, coworkers that you're working with. And yeah, it just gives that reminder, refresher of sorts to be like, oh yeah, I don't need to stress out so much and can take a pause. So not sure if that exactly answers your question, but yeah.
That just made me think, a new thought. I've been introduced to this idea for a while, but this is a new thought, that meditation has become a thing that people are realizing it's a good thing, and they take it to the office, they take it to schools, and I think dork dancing is another aspect of what meditation is supposed to do, is relax and become present, and this is doing the same but with more energy, I guess. Anyway, I just thought of that.
Thank you, Mom. I appreciate it, yes. So yeah, it's something interesting. I think maybe dork dancing requires an additional level of vulnerability that maybe meditation doesn't. Meditation, you're sort of breathing. Dork dancing, you really need to be more expressive. And so that's part of the challenge, is how to have a conversation or hold the space that feels safe for people to be able to, let themselves loose, because a lot of cultures maybe aren't so safe to do that. So that's just a higher barrier. Dance as a more expressive thing might make it more challenging, but also a whole different suite of rewards. So, yeah.
So, I came in late, so I'm sorry. I'm trying not to repeat. And I looked at this thing on YouTube so I could watch that afterward. But one of the things I'm thinking is just, what is it like when you are in the presence of kind of like conventional dancers, and then you throw down like some dork dancing? Because to a certain extent, you're a pioneer, you're breaking the mold, you're breaking stride. What are the emotions that go on when you're doing that? And then my question to you would be, how is that relevant to entrepreneurs?
Yes, awesome. Thank you for that question. So dork dancing is a really funny thing when mixed around traditional dance expressions. I've partnered with and had experience with like Cleo Parker Dance Robinson Company and other things. And I think there's this culture around dance that really makes it feel more performative. And because of that, really can exclude a lot of other people. Like there's this TV show, So You Think You Can Dance. But in reality, I think most people feel, so you think you can't dance is sort of the question that we're posing and things. So it is really interesting to mix the energy in the dance culture and observe, just how people respond and the self-talk and beliefs systems that people have about, not being able to dance. And then with dork dancing, there's still some discomfort. So, just something really interesting to observe, and I think dork dancing creates an additional space for people to be able to try dance in a way that they otherwise might not feel comfortable to lean into that. My own emotional experience of introducing the idea to communities has, it's just been extremely rewarding and fulfilling, and so I see the joy it brings for others, and that is a really inspiring energy. And as it relates to entrepreneurship, the founder community, entrepreneurship or like trying to start something, I think, is an extremely lonely and journey, like emotionally. There's so many unique stressors to founders that maybe isn't conducive to being able to sustain mental health unless you have a very specific intention to protect that. So, I think like the simplicity of dance can help, or the idea of dance is an energy that can bring people together. And so we'll talk more specifics about the different benefits and things, but as it relates to sort of founders, I think, it's a population that I think struggles with mental illness or issues in mental health at a disproportionately high rate compared to the population at large. So I think it's a really big problem for founders and entrepreneurs and this hustle culture. Part of what dork dancing teaches is finding acceptance in the moment and being okay with, how you are presently, and because of it not being so performative. If you parallel that to the journey of entrepreneurship, not being so tied to results or needing customers or a certain number of dollars in the bank in order to validate what you're doing. And so trying to find that joy in the creative process of starting a venture being maybe a mindset shift that could help founders and entrepreneurs feel less alone in the struggle of creating it, but then also knowing that's actually sort of the norm. Before doing dork dancing, I was working on a venture called Fail Up, and I was working specifically on the mental health challenges of the entrepreneurship community. So it's a problem that I think is really big and something that I think is often overlooked, and because of COVID-19 and the lockdown, there's more conversations being had about the mental health of people in general, but also founders, and I think for investors as well. They look at the founder, you know, like how is their mental health, how are they doing, and so it's something worth investing in, whether it's, you know, emotionally and thoughts and things, but also with money to invest in mental health. So, not sure if that answers your question, but best attempt. Yeah. Sorry? The other mic, yes. No worries. Is that better? Okay, perfect. All right, any other questions or curiosities, comments, either about the documentary, Dork Dancing, the dance experience you had? Okay, well, thank you. Did you have something else?
Yeah, I got another question.
Okay, yep.
So what do new people to this experience express to you after they've done that? Like, I come in off the street, I don't know anything about dork dancing. I'm open enough to do that, do it here with strangers in a short period of time, and then I'm sitting here, I feel like freed. Like, I heard one guy in the documentary, like, you know, I found my community, and, you know, what the community is like you're saying, it's okay to be vulnerable and authentic and to have acceptance in the moment and, you know, to be really present. My curiosity is, what's the feedback you get from first-timers that have this experience? Because it has to be something transformative. What are the common feelings or...
Thank you for that question. Very kind, giving questions that I like to respond to, so I appreciate it. Yeah, for me, that's the most rewarding part of my process, is being able to see, sort of as mentioned briefly in the documentary, like the transformation that happens within people. And it doesn't happen overnight, but like after a first dork dancing experience, there's an idea that's planted within, whether it's your heart or your head or your spirit, where it's like, oh, I can show up in this way. And dancing out in public with strangers is not like a typical normal thing. And so there's going to be some sort of learning, some sort of experience, some sort of impression or impact that happens from people joining. And sometimes people just join for, you know, a song or two and then continue on their walk, because we usually dance in public spaces out in parks. Some people are too shy or uncomfortable to join, but they think it's great for the other people and they won't personally dance. So, you know, for me, I observe those who participate the most get the most benefit because they're doing the thing. But yeah, there is an experience, an impression, something for people to take away after just sort of one event. And, you know, people express a lot of gratitude, they express surprise, they express whatever they're learning and feeling inside and sharing that with me. And that's just, yeah, the most rewarding part of the process. And, you know, I have experienced it within myself, and then being able to sort of like see it within others allows me to experience that joy again and again as other people are experiencing it for their first time. So yeah, it's a really incredible thing. And of course, it's not always like, this changed my life in the way that I'd like to think it does, but there's at least something there. Yeah, plant seeds, yeah. And even, that's really interesting, like when people are passing, they read Dork Dancing for Mental Health, and they're like, oh, Dork Dancing. And then they might like, you know, talk to their partner, like Dork Dancing, and then, you know, they might move and like a laugh, so you see like the energy of it spread, and, you know, there's light bulbs even when hearing those words, you know, Dork Dancing for Mental Health, 5 words, and I think it's the simplicity of the idea that's given it a lot of power. Thank you, appreciate it. Really cool. All right. Any other questions, comments about the documentary or the dance? Cool. All right, so want to, what time is it? 10:54, okay. Yeah, just chat a bit more about sort of the topic of mental health and dance in greater detail. the beginning of the documentary sort of shared some quick stats. So, a person commits suicide or every 40 seconds dies by suicide, and over 1 billion people are diagnosed with a mental health challenge or mental health disorder of some sort. So big problem, and COVID-19 has made that worse. Just sharing just like overall sort of what is the problem that we're trying to work against. I think like while sort of society has progressed in so many ways, mental health has been one of those things that has fallen behind. And so depression, all the stats and information that I'll share with you comes from like books, and I'm not gonna cite each one, but they're just books that I've read and taking notes, things like that. But depression has like increased tenfold since 1960. And usually depression like is like first diagnosed on average by age 29, and presently it's now age 14 is sort of the average age that folks typically see that. And as I shared in the documentary, the simplicity of moving and movement can be really powerful in combating, stress, anxiety, depression, different types of mental health challenges, and it can all be explained. Before I get into this, I'll give a dork disclaimer. I'm not like a mental health professional. I don't really know what I'm talking about, just really fascinated by the topic of mental health and just studying books and just sharing sort of what I've picked up. There's chemicals in the brain, dose, get your daily dose. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin. So moving in different ways helps get those going and helps like trigger a biological process within the body that leads to predictable outcomes. So mental health, big problem. Movement, big solution. Dancing is my favorite expression of movement, but there's other ways to move in the world that can help folks. So I've studied a little bit of dance psychology and also positive psychology, and see a lot of overlap between those two different fields, and have thought of an acronym called JAM, so trying to find the joy of applied movement, which for me combines some of the insights of dance psychology and positive psychology to try to help people feel better. So I'll just share, the title of the session was like Get Dork Dancing Steps to Better Mental Health, and so now I'm getting into all the other stuff was more just sort of like feel it, experience it, and this is more of the heady things, which isn't my favorite, but it seems that society likes to talk about numbers and stats and try to explain things even when explanations aren't always needed, especially for this idea. But here's just like a mental health framework that you can sort of hopefully take away by the end of the session, a way to think about your own mental health. Am I going through the steps? Am I entering my day with sort of like prioritizing my mental health? And so STEPS is an acronym that can help describe the benefits of dance while also giving us some things to think about with our actions and our behaviors for how can we show up in relationship to our day and cultivate healthy habits that will then benefit our mental health. And so just going through these one by one with each of the acronyms. And first, so with positive psychology is basically like the scientific study of human happiness. There's a book called How of Happiness, which shares that it's actually only 10% of happiness comes from our life circumstances. And so we often believe, if I get that car, if I get that job promotion, if I do that thing, then I will be happy. But in this book, the author explains that 50% of human happiness is actually sort of like set within our biology. We all sort of have a norm state. And then 40% is determined by our intentional actions or behaviors. And so it's the 40% that we have more control over to sort of influence how we're feeling. So that's what we'll be talking about. That's what we can do. That's more within our control rather than the 10%. So just something interesting. We can always strive for that other thing and then still feel quite discontent. So focusing on what we can do is helpful. There's also a narrative that the more successful you are, the happier you'll be. But with positive psychology, they're like, the more happy you are now, the more you'll be able to like achieve your goals, your health will be better, you'll have better relationships, things like that. And part of the reason why we become discontent is something called hedonic adaptation. So, you know, you move into a bigger space, but then you get used to that space, and then you lose that initial boost. With marriage, the first 2 years, you get like a nice little boost, but then, you know, after, you know, you get back to your baseline. And so, as a society, we like to sort of strive for that next high, but that's not so sustainable. So what can we do? We can step into our day. So social, the happiest people tend to have really strong relationships, and that's kind of like the X factor that differentiates like the happiest people in society against other people is if you can examine or check the quality of their relationships, you can pretty strongly predict their happiness. So it's like the biggest factor. And thinking about sort of like things that we're struggling as a society, like loneliness is a big problem, and it's a very deadly disease. Some folks have compared it to the effect of loneliness being like consuming 15 cigarettes a day, and if you're lonely, you're 50% more likely to die prematurely. So as we think about dance, it's a social glue of sorts. It brings people together across differences, and you're able to sort of really powerfully bond through that activity. So after dancing, there's an increased sense of liking, increased sense of trust, cooperation that happens as a result of participating in this shared activity. There's also by like sort of sharing movements, there's empathetic like learning going on there as well. So these are all really big ideas that you can extrapolate from like a very simple activity. Yeah, we're just like designed to connect. Like that's how we evolve. That's why we're doing so well as a species compared to other species. So yeah, just a quick thought. If you're feeling bad, have you connected with another human? You know, are you prioritizing your relationships? Are you, not to say that, you know, introversion and extroversion is a different topic. I do think, like from what I recall, if you have an extroverted personality, it might be more conducive to building relationships, and they might be, in general, like a happier population, but there's not too much of like, if you're naturally an introvert, doesn't mean like, you know, you can't build really great relationships, and it's like quality over quantity. So yeah, just something to think about is like, have I connected with someone else today, and am I prioritizing my relationships with my family, friends, loved ones, coworkers, even strangers, of like, you know, seeing people. Thinking, how we think affects our brain chemistry. So if we are stuck in a pattern of negative thinking or positive thinking, that will trigger different types of chemicals that will then influence the way we experience and perceive the world. And our brain is neuroplastic, so like our thoughts are quite powerful. So the more we think a certain way, the more we're able to change our subjective experience of our life. And so with dance, depending on how you dance, that's going to influence your thinking a little bit and also your problem solving. So if you have a structured type of dance, I really don't know too many dances, but like structured dance, like box dancing, or you're following specific steps, that will help you problem solve more effectively with problems that are, that's basically convergent thinking. So if there's just one solution to a problem, so if you're to do structured dance, move around, follow some steps, and you were to do like math problems before and after you'd be able to solve that math problem faster. You'd be able to find, that solution. So it really helps with like convergent thinking when you need to find like one specific answer. If you have improvised dance, so that's like dork dancing, where you move however, that helps with divergent thinking. So if your like team, is trying to brainstorm ideas to a complex problem, and you want to like come up with a long laundry list of different solutions, it might be helpful to dork dance for a bit, and then the creativity juices, the thinking muscles will already be working out, and then be able to really just come up with more creative ideas that could then help your team, your company, things like that. So the way we move our body, like I think there's a direct reflection, more freedom of movement in your body, more freedom of movement in your mind. And then feel free to pause me at any time. I know I don't really like to be lectured at, just a lot of information and yeah.
Have you ever heard of any company doing that before brainstorming sessions? So I used to work at GE in Western Union. We'd have these meeting rooms, and we'd have a bunch of sticky notes, and we'd be going through. Like I'm thinking right here, there's an application for this because you have people, everybody's sitting, stagnant, nobody moves. I'm kind of hyper. I always stand up and meetings, walk around and stuff. But when they're doing their brainstorming, to have a session of something like this, or to teach that, or to somehow bring this to like an HR group of people for their employees.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that would be, the goal. So I find, that it could be very useful. I personally don't have too much experience like having these conversations with larger companies or HR and things like that. But my hope is, continue planting the seed, talk to more people, have more people try it. And what's really cool is like when people try it, they get it, they see it, they have fun, and then it sort of spreads in that way. And thus far, schools have been more responsive, to the idea, and elementary schools having like little brain breaks. They have so much energy. It's obvious they need to dance, but for adults, we need to dance as well, I think. And whether you're tired or you have energy, like it's just an outlet that's really helpful. And so, I would love to sort of continue to try to spread it in other contexts. But even just a song or two, can make a difference. Oh, thanks. I'm not as familiar or comfortable with this part, but, we'll see. Oh, thanks. So that was sort of more of the dance psychology part. From the positive psychology part, there's something called like expectancy theory, and the basic idea is sort of success is self-fulfilling, and so, you can hear inspirational quotes like if you just Google and stuff, and you'll read things and be like, oh, that's true, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. But there's some interesting like experiments that they did that really further exemplify that. So they took a group of 75-year-olds and they put them in an environment that was made it easy for them to believe that they were in a time zone or time that was 20 years prior. And so like they're 75, but they rewind the clock, the calendars, the athletes, the TV, they just had this artificial setting where it made it feel like they were younger because they were living in a different time. And then they measured like this group of 75-year-olds before and after, and I think they only spent like a week there, and at the end of their time in this environment, they were like objectively younger. There was improvements in memory, different biological indicators, blood pressure, I don't know, like showed that they reversed in age. And so the mindset, the way you're talking to yourself, the way you sort of see and feel things really has an influence. They expected to be 55, and so they actually became closer to 55 than the other way, at least from a biological perspective. There's also poison ivy. Different people were primed, this is, like, it actually wasn't poison ivy, and they told them it was poison ivy, and of course, they're itchy. It was poison ivy. They told them it wasn't poison ivy, and it wasn't. And so when it was fake, 13 out of 13 people believed that they, experienced the symptoms of poison ivy, even though it wasn't. And so, anyways, like the big takeaway here is reality is relative, and how we perceive and experience things is like something to be very mindful of like what does that conversation look like. Another thing, my mom actually studied underneath like the main person, Csikszentmihalyi, is that how you say it, his name? Mike Csikszentmihalyi. So, flow, you've maybe heard of, but it's just like the state where if you're engaging in a creative activity where, the challenge, it's not too easy, not too hard, and you're really just enjoying it, you lose sense of time, and that's something that's really helpful for, just getting lost in that. And so the recommendation or takeaway from this section is just to do something that builds you up from like a creative standpoint, where you're tapping into passionate energy, and where you're able to like really create a narrative in your head that you're doing something good, and just work on trying different things that feel good from like a creative thinking standpoint. All right, so emotions. The problem that we face is sort of like denying our emotions and not giving that space to sort of to feel. And so with dance, when we dance, that helps with all these things I've been saying, body image, self-esteem, motivation. It's really interesting just to, if you compare dance with other physical activities or other sports, there's a larger return on dance as it relates to like things like esteem or body image compared to like other things like jogging or running or other types of sport. And then from the positive psychology perspective, it's the ratio between our positive to negative emotions is something really important to take note. And for every 3 to 1, negative emotions are really powerful because our brain is sort of primed to scan and identify the negative. So we need to really intentionally like create moments of joy and create positive emotions to buffer the impact and heaviness of the heavy things. When you're experiencing positive emotions, you're able to see more possibilities. So there's something called the broaden and build theory. If you are in positive emotions, you are able to really lean into your strengths and see more possibilities. So we're measuring people's eye movements, and they showed them like this like visual map. And when people were feeling good, their eyes moved more. They took in more of the scene, so they saw more possibility right in front of them. And it allows you to be in a more imaginative, creative space. Again, if you're like brainstorming to be feeling good. Negative emotions are really helpful for like focusing your attention, because you want to like diagnose the problem and solve the problem, so you get really like specific. So they have different purposes, negative and positive emotions, but if you want to like brainstorm and see new possibilities, then being in a positive state is something helpful for that. Because our brain is primed to see the negative, it's almost like we need to artificially invest in the positive to counteract the natural weight of the negative. So it's not having rose-colored glasses, but not be blind to the negative, but having rose-tinted glasses, seeing things through a positive lens is really something beneficial. Recommendation here would just be checking with your emotions, journaling, sort of seeing where you're at and just being mindful of, okay, this is the emotional state that I'm in, so that's going to affect how I'm showing up creatively, relating to others, and that can just, having that heightened awareness will like affect your outcomes. And like you can also think about, what should I be doing when I'm in this emotion? Physical, kind of self-explanatory. but that's the whole, dancing is a physical thing, and so my strategy has been lean into the physical. That's been easiest for me, and then shaking that up will help influence everything else. From a mental health perspective, there's some studies like taking antidepressant medication versus exercising 3 times a week for 45 minutes. They had a group and compared these different ways of sort of like treatment, we could say. And 6 months after, 38% of the group that take the antidepressant medication relapsed, whereas only 9% of those that exercise for 45 minutes 3 times a week relapse. So at least that study shows that exercise is a very natural way to self-medicate of sorts. And yeah, positive emotions also improving our physical health. So, if you're not feeling good, it's more likely you're going to be sick. If you're sick, you're not going to do as well from a productivity standpoint in your company. So there's really powerful reasons for companies and leaders to invest in, happiness and positive emotions, which, can be very difficult to figure out, but dork dancing and dancing can be just like a simple intervention that can help out a little bit. So yeah, what's interesting is there's kind of like this feedback loop of, how you're feeling and then how you do. And so how do you change that? For me, even if you don't feel like it, just doing something can change the direction of that. And then the last part is spiritual. So the problem that we're facing right now is like a lot of people are experiencing like a meaning crisis of sorts, like feeling a lack of purpose, why are they here? The role of religion and things in society seems to be a little less relevant, if you're looking at larger trends, and without that, it can be harder to experience its benefits. And, having a community is a big thing. That goes back to the social. Yeah, this is, with dance, there can be a spiritual experience, like losing yourself in it. The concerns of the ego can melt and dissolve a bit, and the group can take its own sort of like energy. And so, you step in. Before dancing, you think about my own problems, and then when you're dancing, you're able to really see each other human to human, and like all those other narratives and negative thoughts and beliefs and misperceptions of things will just sort of get lost as we're all engaging in this thing that feels, to me at least, like something higher. Dance, I think there's something called like ecstatic dance, which is basically that idea. But yeah, you can forget yourself, have moments of self-transcendence, things like that. And from a positive psychology perspective, life is more than just feeling good, it's also doing good and being good. And so like what's the why? And this can be a really difficult thing for people to figure out. But my suggestion here would be, do something that feels spiritually restorative every day. So whether it's meditating, going out on a walk, being with nature, something that really connects you to, I perceive things a lot from an energetic perspective. So if the energy, feels healing and good, then just something to keep in mind. So humans seem to be driven by a sense of purpose. And so like even if there isn't a clear one, you can sort of like make it for yourself, and that's all these ideas relate to each other, and it's hard for me to exactly put them into categories. The question that I'll leave you guys with is, or a hope to maybe reflect a little bit on your own mental health journey and your own mental health experiences. How do you relate to sort of this cause and this issue personally? What things have you struggled with? What things have worked well for you? And with Dork Dancing, it's a journey of mental health advocacy. So For those who got to enjoy the dork dancing experience before, you're all official dork dancers, and when people show up, I see them not just dancers, but as mental health advocates, because they're going out in public, they're doing something vulnerable, and it's heightening awareness. And so after this sort of conversation session and things, there's an invitation to, of course, like join us in what we're doing with dork dancing. That's one way that you can advocate, is literally like joining our dances and getting to have conversations with dork dancers in the community, but also just the simple conversations with your team, your friends, your family. How can we continue the conversation? So yeah, here in Denver, we are dork dancing currently 5 times a week, rotating between different parks, and this is always free and open to the public. So on Tuesdays, we're in Aurora, Rocky Ridge Park. Thursdays, Cheeseman. Fridays, Today. So if you want to dork dance today, you can go to City Park. It's 5:30 to 6:30 every week. Saturday, Wash Park, and Sundays, Sloan's Lake. And so on our website, we have the specific location within the park. Energy comes and goes. The size is a little different. Also, weather is unpredictable, so sometimes there might be 4 people. Sometimes there might be 15. At Sloan's Lake is our biggest one. Our biggest one there has been 50 people, but last week was like 15, 20. So it's always unpredictable who will show up, but it tends to be a good time for people who join. Yes, times are also on the website. So during the week, it's 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., and during the weekend, it's 10 to 11 a.m. So weekends are in the mornings, and then during the week after work. We are going to have a big dork dance this upcoming Sunday from 9 to 11 a.m. at Civic Center Park. We had one big dork dance last month, and there was about 150 or so people who came out, and that was something really exciting to see. We're going to have our second one this upcoming Sunday morning at the Greek Amphitheater, and so if you all are able to join, that would be a great first one to go to, because there'll be a lot of people, a lot of energy, and something different. And here's like a quick video that shows what the last one looked like.
Welcome everyone to dork dancing. Part of the joy of dork dancing is to get out of our heads and into our bodies. We're here not only to share a dance together, but also a journey of mental health advocacy.
Yeah, and so for those who watched the documentary, like that chronicled the journey of starting dork dancing in Da Nang, but here in Denver started it in late March, and it's been a beautiful journey of starting it here. People have responded really well. Different sort of local TV channels have picked it up, and it's been really exciting to see how well received the dork dancing concept has been. So the journey of starting dork dancing in Da Nang has more or less been reflected and paralleled here in Denver. So a similar story is playing out of just more people joining, and more people, more energy, more awareness, more we're able to sort of help lift each other up. So yeah, that's the website, dorkdancing.com. And then if you go to locations/Denver, you'll see more info there. And then this phone number, you can text that, and that will connect directly with me. So I can answer any questions or curiosities you may have. And then I also send like a weekly update if there's any changes in our schedule or things to share with the community. So that phone number is another way to get connected. Yeah, so now, we could, if there's any other questions, comments, chat about that. We could dance, but that's pretty much most of me talking, I think, now. So I really appreciate you all joining this session. If you guys want to dance some more, I can like turn on the music and we can experience that. But it's up to us in terms of, you know, conversation, dance, or just enough talking. Let's get food and go to the bathroom. But up to you all. Woohoo! All right, thank you.